this is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, we're going to make the most requested video I've gotten as of late, which is, John, have you compared the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer to the Nama J2 hands-free juicer? And my answer was no, I haven't until now. That being said, I will say that the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer pretty much looks like and functions like, to me, the Hurom H300 juicer that was not available in the United States and is not available in the United States. Link down below to that video to give you further insight on that machine. That being said, I will be reviewing the official Omega Effortless Batch Juicer in the United States. And here's the thing, guys. You asked me, John, which one is better? Which one should I buy? Because I want to turn the video off now. You know, I'm going to tell you guys to watch the video because there are nuances. There are good things about the Nama J2. There are bad things about the Nama J2. There are good things about the Omega Effortless Juicer. There are bad things about the Omega Effortless Juicer. And here's the truth, guys. These guys are like brothers, right? Maybe you have two sons and they're both really good at basketball. Maybe one's a little bit better at defense and one's a little bit better at offense. Which son is better? Well, it depends on the team that they're playing against. Maybe that team has a weak defense, so then your offensive son is going to be better to play against that team, and then, you know, your son's team will win because of that. But maybe the other team is really strong in offense, and your defensive son would be a better player to play against that other team so that they could defend, and, you know, we could have other people on your son's team to win the game, right? And that's how these machines are. In some cases, the Nama is going to be better. In some cases, the Omega Effortless is going to be better. And it specifically depends on what you want to juice and some of the features that are important to you to have in the juicer, right? And that's what I hope to share in this video. My name is John Kohler, and I've been juicing now for 28 years. I've been making YouTube videos comparing all the different brand juicers online now for 15 years, and I've been selling juicers online for 25 years. So in my videos, you're going to get a lot more than what you're going to get on just a random person's video that may be juicing as a hobby for fun or for their health. You're going to get literally an industry insider to show you guys the ins and outs, the pros and cons, and all the history behind just the juicers themselves. So if you guys are not already, please make sure you click that subscribe button right down below and make sure you click the little bell to get notified as my new videos come out, because I'm always testing and comparing new juicers and other appliances such as vacuum blenders that will allow you to extract the most amount of phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals out of fruits and vegetables as well as other plant foods. Now the next thing I will say is that I have long histories with both Nama and Omega. That being said, my history with Omega goes back a lot further. You know, since I started my business 25 years ago, you know, I've been selling Omega juicers. I've known the owners of Omega Juicer over the many years. There was an ownership change many years ago, and I still know the owner today. That being said, while I may see him at trade shows, I don't have his direct contact phone number to ensure that my customers, you know, are taken care of should there be issues with their machine. However, I do and am in contact with the customer service manager to make sure my customers get care when needed when they make their purchase at DiscountJuicers.com. Meanwhile, over with Nama, I talk to the CEO of Nama literally once a month on the phone, or sometimes weekly, just over text, to ensure and find out the latest and greatest knowledge on how they are improving the Nama juicer, but more importantly also the Nama brand. Because, you know, here's the thing, Nama, to me, and from what is explained to me, is more than just a juicer company. They want to sell you a whole experience. They want to sell you a device that's going to allow you to get healthier. You know, and they're in process to doing many different things to ensure that you're going to have the best and easiest time juicing and have the support tools and materials you need to be successful. Meanwhile, as far as I'm aware, Omega is just a juicer company, and they have been selling juicers and will continue to sell juicers for many years to come. That being said, Nama is a relatively new company, you know, just a fraction of the years in operation compared to Nama, but the business owner of the Nama company has owned other companies that have been in business a lot longer time, so I'm confident that both companies are here to stay. The next thing I will say is I want to compare some things that are just like written on paper and not necessarily like the machines themselves, because these are also important considerations you may want to take into consideration. So here's number one. The number one is the warranty. What's the warranty length on both these machines? Well, when Nama originally came out, it was 15 years on the motor and 2 years on these parts right here. But I've been really negotiating with Nama and telling them, guys, you need to really up your warranty to 15 years on the entire unit if you believe in the unit. I mean, I know the machine is quality built and you guys really need to up your warranty. So finally, just recently, they upped their warranty to 15 years on the entire machine, which is a game changer now because previously they only offered 2 years, and I know a lot of customers didn't really like 2 years because it didn't really make them feel secure that they are buying a product that will last. Meanwhile, on the Omega, Omega is probably the company that actually started the 15-year warranty, which is the longest warranty in the industry, and they have that available on many of their machines now, right? So warranty-wise, both these have the same amount of warranty years, 15. The next question is, John, which one of these two companies have better warranty or customer support? And that, I'm going to have to say, Nama takes the cake. You know, you could look at online reviews of Omega, maybe especially during the pandemic, didn't have the best, you know, customer service reviews, although their customer service has improved. However, that being said, Omega does not have 24-hour customer service, and I still get emails on a regular basis on how Omega is not responding to my customers' emails when they email Omega. That's why I recommend my customers to call Omega directly on the phone number. I find that the customers generally get better service that way. Meanwhile, over on Nama, right? Nama has 24-hour service. They have staff literally around the world to ensure that you are taken care of during business hours or should you be juicing in the middle of the night. The other thing to know is that Nama is a global company. While Omega focuses on and may sell juicers in small respects in other countries, their focus is the USA as far as I'm aware. Meanwhile, Nama, while they do sell in the USA, they distribute and sell juicers all over the world and are currently in the process of putting warehousing in other places around the world so that they can service you guys in different areas of the world even faster. So I think that's one of the reasons for their 24-hour customer service, so that they could service customers all over the world because they have 24-hour customer service, which is actually something that's really uncommon in the juicing industry. All the other juicer companies that I'm aware of only has basically standard business hours customer service. So Nama is especially good at email customer service. When you email them, they'll assign you a service ticket. And the last time I emailed Nama, they responded to me within the hour, which is quite impressive. In addition, you can also call Nama's phone number. That is included when you purchase the juicer if you have any questions or concerns. They will also video chat with you to ensure that you get helped and you get the help you need by actually showing you on a video chat Zoom call to make sure that you are on track and getting the help and service you require. So you can see right now, so far, meanwhile, Nama's a new company, they're working harder to basically have better customer service than the legacy company. And now here's the other thing I want to tell you guys is that Omega is a large company, right? It's a big conglomerate. They own many different brands in the housewares industry. And meanwhile, I would say Nama to me is like, a family-owned business. It's owned by the husband and wife, literally. The wife does some of the juicing and the marketing and all these things, and the husband's out there doing the business stuff. And so it's a much more, I would say, friendlier company for me to work with personally than, a larger company that just, in my opinion, sees me as another number. So you might want to take that into consideration when you guys buy one of these juicers. If you guys want to be treated by maybe a larger corporation or more of a family company. So while some of these things like the warranty and the customer service are quite important, what also is really important to me is how the juicers perform and what they include and how they are designed, right? That's where some major differences are in each of these machines. So I think first I want to go over and share the different parts and accessories that come with each machine, as well as some of the different tasks that they could do. So now I want to show you guys what each of these juicers come with. We're going to start with the Omega Effortless batch juicer because it's a little bit, less parts that it includes. You get a pusher that's only used if you need to basically agitate things in the hopper. Generally, I don't even use a pusher on these machines. You get a special cleaning brush. You get a cold press 365 juice recipe booklet, as well as the instruction manual. And you get a juice catch container and a pulp catch container, okay? That's your basic package. Now, this machine is advertised as being able to make juices, sorbets, as well as smoothies, with the included attachment as it comes set up with no additional attachments to buy to do those activities. Now, I haven't tested these activities, but to me, this machine is set up for juicing, and yes, it can do other tasks, but I would need to test to see how well it does those tasks, because once again, it's designed as a juicer and may do other tasks as it is set up. Meanwhile, over on the Nama J2, the Nama J2, I will say, is definitely packaged better. It's more user-friendly in the way it's packaged to kind of like help acquaint the user with the juicer. So they've kind of thought about, hey, when the customer gets the box and opens it, what kind of experience do we want them to have? Whereas Omega's kind of like been packaging juices and selling them for like 30 years or more. This is just a packed juicer in a box, right? Nama's really kind of gone out of their way to label each part so you can kind of see each part and put them together for you. What they include in their machine is, number one, they include a quick start guide. This is something that I believe the Omega should have. So this tells you basically how to start, how to assemble it, what exactly you need to do, how to load it up. And it says, you know, we're here to help, with their phone number on the back, some of the key features. Of course, it also has an instruction book as well as a recipe book to help get you started. It also has a pusher. It also has a cleaning brush. It also has the pulp collection cup as well as the juice collection cup, but also this includes a juice collection cup top, whereas Omega does not. And the Nama J2 also includes a specialized smoothie screen that I would actually call a coarse hole screen myself, that actually will put more pulp into the juice. Now, some of you guys that are really perceptive is you're thinking, John, some of those parts look identical, right? Here's the pushers. The pushers on both these machines, they pretty much look identical. John, those brushes, they pretty much look identical except for the color. It looks like they're molded even in the same machinery, right? John, those catch cups, right? They're like the same color. They look identical, right? And yeah, I mean, even with these guys, these catch cups look identical. And actually, I think actually they are identical, except for this one has the lid, right? And here's the thing, guys. Both these machines are made in the factory in Korea that makes the world's best juicers, right? The fact of the matter is, one is made for Omega in the USA, and the other one is made for Nama. The difference between these is that I do not believe Omega designed this machine. They're just reselling the machine that the factory in Korea made, and maybe with some small, minute changes, Omega recommended to the factory they made that and then put it into their machine. Meanwhile, the Nama was literally designed in a collaboration between Nama and the factory in South Korea to Nama specifications. I know that Nama took 3 years to develop this machine before they released it to the public. I did not even know about this machine until like 3 months before it came out, when I got a sample unit to use, because they dial it in to ensure that the customers would have the best time and experience juicing with the least amount of problems. Meanwhile, I can't say the same for the Omega Effortless batch juicer. My previous experience with a juicer that looks just like this one wasn't the best. I found that it did clog and jam, although it actually did make a higher yield than the Nama J2. But the pain points for me was that it just wasn't quite as effortless as I'd like. Of course, I have not yet tested this machine yet, and that is the purpose of this video. Now, the other thing I will say is that I know a lot of you guys really want to be able to make the sorbets, and the Nama J2 is set up to do juicing with the fine hole screen that's built in, or smoothies, or fruit juicing where you put a little bit more pulp in the juice with the core screen. That being said, later this year, hopefully late summer, Nama will be coming out with their sorbet attachment. This is a public viewing of that. This is my prototype that I've had for a little bit to test to make sure that the concept will work in the Nama J2. It does work in the Nama J2, and Nama is currently working on producing this and having it as an optional accessory that you can buy with the Nama J2 should you want it. So if you guys want to make sorbets, hold on a little bit more, and Nama will be having this come out, so you could buy the juicer now and be confident that later this year they will have the sorbet attachment that you can buy as well. So the next thing I want to go over is I want to go over some of the instructions in the instruction manuals, because I found it to be quite curious. Both these machines have about a 30-minute run time recommended. That being said, I do and have run the Omega up to an hour without any incident, without it overheating or failing or anything like that. That being said, I want you guys to read the instruction manuals, before you use your machines. First, I'll go ahead and open up the Nama manual, and this is in regards to, basically how it recommends you pre-cut some of the produce before filling it in the machine. So on page 14, it says ingredients. It tells you how to prep different produce items, and I'll read out verbatim how it says to prep ginger, celery, kale, and chard, which is known for clogging vertical juicers. It says for fibrous or stringy ingredients cut into 2 to 3 inch pieces or smaller will give them the best results. This will help to prevent strong fibers from getting twisted around the processing blade or auger. So that's how Nama recommends you juice your celery and other stringy vegetables. Let's see how the Omega Effortless batch juicer recommends that. Alright, so on page 9 of the Omega Effortless batch juicer instructions, it says precautions before juicing. And it tells you basically how to pre-process the produce before you put it in the machine. And I'm going to read the leaf and stem vegetables section here verbatim. It says celery, kale, cabbage, water, parsley, wheatgrass, chives, etc. Cut the ingredients into 3 centimeter or shorter pieces for extraction. Since leaf and stem vegetables are rough and fibrous, they are not easily juiced and can get caught in the auger. When juicing ingredients other than roots, leafy and stem vegetables, the juice may be stagnant, which I'm not exactly sure what that means. But it says they want you to cut the ingredients not into 2 to 3 inches like the Nama J2, but into 3 centimeters. And because I'm here in the US, we use inches. I actually had to convert centimeters to inches, and basically 3 centimeters is 1.18 inches. So while the Nama J2, the hands-free juicer, will recommend you cut into 2 to 3 inch pieces, the Omega Effortless juicer makes you cut it into 1.18 inch pieces, which is, half as small or almost 3 times as small as the pieces you're going to cut in the Nama J2. To me, that doesn't sound that effortless. It sounds like it's 2 to 3 times more work than the Nama J2. That being said, I have videos where I show how I've juiced 5 heads of celery straight in the Nama J2 without clogging, without jamming. Link is down below to that video where you can see how I did that. I'll also post a link down below to a video where I cut the pieces into maybe, almost 6 inch pieces to basically put them in vertically in this hopper, which also worked without issue in the Nama J2. That's a video I made 4 easy recipes in the Nama J2 where I juice a variety of ingredients, including the first one, which was straight celery. That also did not jam on me either. So isn't that interesting? Most people will never read the instruction manual until you get the machine, so you might be a little bit perturbed once you get the Omega Effortless juicer because it sounds so effortless, but it actually requires you to pre-cut a lot more. That being said, most guys, including me, don't read instructions, so I did not cut my celery to 1 inch pieces like they recommend, or 3 centimeters. I cut it to 2-3 inches because that's what I'm normally doing on the Nama J2. So hopefully when we juice the celery, the Omega Effortless batch juicer will juice it all right. If not, we're going to see what happens. All right, so now that you learned a little bit about the warranties, the companies, as well as what's said in the instruction manual, now we're going to go ahead and compare the juicers part by part. Each one of these machines have their pros and cons, and this is my job to share them with you guys so you guys exactly know what you're getting. The next thing I want to let you guys know is that if I've helped you out by explaining the different videos, pointing out some things that you may not have realized about the different juicers, I've helped you out. Buy the right juicer. I would encourage you guys to help me out by using one of the different links below in the description or the first pinned comment to buy the Nama J2 juicer at namawell.com. You guys could use coupon code handsfree10 for a 10% off discount on the Nama J2 because I want to save you guys some money. When you guys use that link below and the hands-free 10 coupon, Nama will share with me a small commission so I can continue to make these educational videos for you guys. If you guys are looking to buy that Omega juicer, use a link in the description below to buy the Omega Effortless batch juicer. So on with this comparison. So the next main thing is you have the juicing parts and the motor body. So first we're going to go over the juicing parts. Both of them easily remove off the machines, and you know, you may think they look kind of similar because they have the juice outlet port on one side, and if we spin it around you get the pulp outlet on the other side. In addition, the Omega has actually two handles, one on the top and one on the bottom. I think they're kind of not needed unless you want to play some video games where you're driving like this, whereas the Nama kind of doesn't have two handles. They just have the one on the top because you can just use the one on the top to pick up the whole assembly. Let's see, next we got the top piece coming out. So on the Nama J2 you hold the handle and there's a little clip here that you push in this direction and it just basically pops up the lid. Meanwhile, you could hold the handle all you want. There's nothing on this side to unclip it. What you have to do on this is there's a little button here thing you press in, and at the same time you gotta lift up and then the top comes out. I will say that the hinge is a little bit tighter on the Omega than the Nama J2. You guys can see these tops, while they may look similar because they both have holes in the middle, they're a little bit different. Number one, the Omega Effortless is a little bit larger, and number two, I don't know if you guys can see that on the top here, this lid is basically just straight flat. So if you put something on the top, it may roll in, but it also may roll off. Whereas on the Nama J2, it's kind of actually like raked, so it's kind of like more like a volcano. So you put something here on the edge, and it's just going to basically roll in. Say you're juicing like grapes or cherry tomatoes, it's going to roll into the Nama J2. So I believe the Nama J2 is a little bit better thought out design than the Omega Effortless batch juicer on the lid. All right, next coming out, we got the main hopper assembly coming out. And while these guys may look similar, they're just a little bit different. So if we look at these, you can see the Omega Effortless batch juicer is a little bit shorter. The Nama J2 is a little bit taller. Both of them in there basically have what's called a processing blade. The processing blade will basically help to pre-cut and feed produce into the juicer at a slow and moderate pace depending on the RPMs of the juicer. The RPMs of the Omega Effortless batch juicer is 70 revolutions per minute, whereas on the Nama J2 it runs at 50 revolutions per minute. It's like 20 revolutions per minute slower on the Nama J2, and in general the slower the RPMs, the less oxidative damage to the juice because there's less aeration because the juicer is running slower. So just looking at these two processing blades, they pretty much look identical to me. And the other thing is when you spin this around, it's a little bit tight to spin, and on the Nama J2 when you spin this around, it seems a little bit looser to me to spin around, so I'm not sure what that's about. And then on the bottom here, basically, where they mate up with the juicer parts top, on the Nama J2, they have an external rubber or silicone ring that prevents liquid from spilling out between these parts, which is on the outside, which really shouldn't really ever get wet. The inside here, which you will have to clean when you're done, is fairly easy to clean, whereas on the Omega Effortless batch juicer, the ring is more on the inside, so that's more likely to get crudted up with different things. In addition, there is a channel here that you'll need to clean, much like on the Nama, but then there's a secondary channel, which I'm not exactly sure why they put it in there, which pulp and produce will get stuck in when you're done, so that'll make actually cleaning a little bit harder on this unit. In addition, this unit is round, and then it's flattened off on one side, whereas on the Nama J2 it's pretty much round all the way around except for this little area here where they have the safety switch kind of go down. So I have checked the capacity of both these by filling it up with like wheat, and for the most part they pretty much have the same identical capacity. The difference is that the Nama J2 is a bit more narrow, and the Omega Effortless is a little bit larger, but a little bit shorter. This is a little bit more narrow, but a little bit taller. And this, of course, has the back side just cut out, but the capacity is pretty much the same. Between these two parts, I mean, I would kind of go with the Nama part because it's a little bit easier to clean on the bottom, and I like that it's more rounded instead of this round plus the the knocked off side wall. All right, so while the hoppers were pretty much identical for the most part, where these machines really differ is in the main juicing parts. So the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer is a new screenless design. So this is a new, I would say, innovative design where they don't have a standard traditional stainless steel juicing screen. It's basically done with a two-piece auger. This is the top part of the auger, and this is the bottom part of the auger. And what happens is these two parts interconnect. As the produce works its way down, it's ground up, and the juice is expelled. The juice actually falls into the cracks of the auger and then comes out the machine, whereas the pulp then just flows off the side and then continues to get directed out. Meanwhile, over on the Nama J2, it's more traditional, where you have a solid auger and the produce is ground up against the juicing screen, and then the juice actually comes out this way instead of in on this guy. In addition, you have a wiping blade that is circling around to basically keep your screen clean and keep the juice flowing off so you get the maximum amount of yield, and shuffles it into your juicer. So you guys can see on this unit you have one part, two parts to clean, but on this machine, the same apparatus to do the same exact job, you have one part, the auger to clean, you have the juicer screen to clean, and you have the wiping blade to clean. So this is actually one additional part. Plus you will have to probably scrub down the screen a little bit to get some of the pulp, that can get clogged in the holes. Doesn't get clogged that bad, but you should brush it down after every use. Whereas on the Omega Effortless, they recommend you can just rinse it off. That being said, I do encourage you guys to brush it with soap and water after every use, because if you don't, you're going to get basically carotenoid, pigment stains, and mineral deposits that may lessen the performance over time of your juicer. Omega specifically states that you should not be putting these parts in the dishwasher. I do not recommend dishwashing parts from any juicer because the high heat can melt the parts, as well as the more caustic soaps used in dishwashers can weaken the plastic in the machine. While I will say that this auger is a lot more heavy duty, it even has some divots in there. The divots are in there according to Nama to basically quiet the juicer down when it's juicing, so it may be a little bit more quiet when juicing, whereas on the Omega auger there's no such divots. And on this auger is a lot lighter in weight. The issue is I have with this auger, like if you were to just drop it on the ground, you have a tile floor or concrete floor. The issue I have with these is that these pins here, I don't know if you guys could see that, but they're a little bit bendable. So I wonder if this hit on the ground, if it's gonna break. And likewise with this secondary part here, this middle piece is right, look at this. These pieces like just totally bend and flex, and they may just break off. Whereas this, if it drops, it's probably gonna, break your toe because it's just one solid piece of plastic. Of course, some people may want to just more do this rinse off with a little scrubbing, and some people may not mind more scrubbing on the Nama J2 that you will have to do on the screen as well as on the wiping blade. In general, the pros of the screen technology is that it is technology that's been used for over 25 years now and is perfected technology that we know works. Meanwhile, the screenless design is a new design that has only been out for a handful of years, and I believe they're still working on improving the technology. And if it was me, I probably wouldn't release this yet. That being said, it is a unique selling point because there is no screen to clean. I find it very easy to clean the Nama J2 screen, although I will honestly tell you guys it is a little bit easier to clean this. So between these two parts, which ones do I like better? Well, I'm kind of more traditional. I'm gonna have to go with the screen design because that's a tried and true method. I'm not fully sold on the screenless design. I find that it puts a lot more pulp in the juice, and I'm not a big fan of pulp in my juice. The next part I want to compare are the juicing bowls, and that's where the Nama J2 shines compared to the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer. When I look at this part, I just see complications, a lot of different things going on that I'll explain to you guys in a second. And when I see this, I just see nice and easy, basic, and straightforward, right? So while cleaning the auger is easier on this, I would say personally cleaning the juicing bowl on the Omega is going to be more difficult than the Nama J2. Let me go ahead and explain why. The Nama J2 basically has a cylinder, and you can see in here it says basically open and easy to get to all the way around. It's not too deep. In addition, for where the juice comes out, you could open this spout and you could easily clean inside there. And where the pulp comes out, you could easily flip this little lever down. It opens up and you could clean in here. This little gasket thing comes out. This actually keeps a little bit restriction on the pulp to make sure it's drier before it comes out. And you could just basically plug it back in there. I like that you could actually take this out and clean under there quite easily. Although because you can remove it, you need to be careful not to lose it. Okay. But yeah, this is super simple and super easy to clean. You know, one outside surface, one inside surface. On the Omega part, a little bit more complex here, right? You got basically 4 surfaces. You got the outer surface, and then you got this inner surface because it's kind of hollow in between here. So you should get water spots or whatever in here, and you want things looking spotless. You need to kind of get in there and clean it. That being said, things should not really get in here unless you're rinsing this upside down and getting water in there. Then you have the inner surface of this part, which is actually they kind of pre-colored for you guys like a yellowish color. Maybe that's so you don't see the stains of the carotenoid pigments or turmeric pigments. In addition, this part goes really deep down in there, and there's 2 channels. The inner channel is where the juice comes out and is funneled out. The outer channel is where the pulp then comes out. This little drop down hatch, once again, this has a drop down hatch much like the Nama J2 that you could drop down. On this hatch you also have that little silicone plug, but the thing is this is on a little piece so you'll never lose it, but also it's a bit more hassle to kind of clean underneath there because you kind of gotta, you know, push it out, move it out of the way and then clean it, and then you could actually just put it back in place. Also, the other thing is that because you're cleaning this inside here, they have a lot of little like lines in there, which are basically what's being used to basically help the produce be ground up. And so each one of these has a little edge that you may need to get in to clean, especially if you're using something like waxy, like turmeric. It may get some clogging in there, and you will need to scrub that down. Meanwhile, on the Nama J2, the equivalent would be inside of the screen that has the little, you know, kind of like ridges that basically the produce is ground up into to kind of get it to grind up. That being said, on the Nama J2, you can clean in from the top, the side, or you can clean in from the bottom with the brush. Meanwhile, on this part, you can only clean in from the top because you can't get in from the bottom of this because it is solid. Also, this is a lot deeper, and there's some narrow channel ways. The other thing I want to point out is the run. So this is the area you will have to clean, and it's basically the run is this long. So that is how long the run is on the Omega, and on the Nama, it's basically almost half the distance of where the juice comes out, so that's a little bit less cleaning. Meanwhile, over on where the pulp comes out, the run on the pulp from the spout to here is about this big. And let's take a look at how it is on the Omega. On the Omega, it's a little bit longer run. The other thing I will say is that Nama really worked hard to design this machine so that it doesn't clog and jam during juicing. They had some issues with their original Nama J1 clogging and jamming, including I had issues with it, and that's why I don't necessarily recommend their original model. So they really took the time to make sure that this machine is, you know, pretty much clog and jam proof for the most part for the majority of the users out there that are following the directions. And actually, if you look right here, this is the reason why. They have a nice large hole on the bottom. You guys could see me. I could stick my pinky literally all the way through there and wiggle it around. This is where the pulp comes out, right? The smaller that hole, you know, the more prone this machine would be to getting clogged with, you know, fibrous celery fibers or other stringy vegetables that they say pre-cut to 2 to 3 inches. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Omega. On the Omega, if we drop this piece down, I can't even get my finger down in there, but if I could, I couldn't even get my my pinky through it because it's like literally like less than half the size of the Nama. So what this means to me is that if you don't pre-cut things more small, it will jam or has a higher probability of jamming in the Omega. In addition, if we look at this shot, it's basically a straight run through. I could like look through there, whereas on this hole, where it comes out, it's almost like a stepped hole. So it kind of like has an opening, but then there's like a larger opening, but there's no step to kind of divert the pulp coming out. And to me, this is like a blockage point. So if you're juicing something like, you know, cantaloupe seeds, right, it's likely to get stuck in here. And actually that's the experience that I had when I used a model that looked just like this one. I was basically juicing some cucumber seeds in the juicer, and I believe they were getting stuck on the outlet port, which made the juicing process take a lot longer than it needed to, and the same seeds went through the Nama J2 without any hassle. That being said, this machine also got a higher yield in that test than the Nama J2, but was a lot more work to get there, so I would say it was actually a little bit more effort instead of less, all right? So yeah, that's the parts there. Between these two parts, I'm gonna have to say I like the Nama part. It's just a little bit easier to clean, shorter runs, you know, wider port, so that, you know, you guys, when you guys are juicing, are gonna just have less problems and not get frustrated with your juicer. All right, now I wanna show you guys how to assemble both these units. Both these machines, I recommend assembling off the main unit. So for the Nama J2, you're gonna take the wiping blade, shove this into the screen, and then there's like two little notches coming out, and in here there's like two little notches on the side of the bowl. It's pretty easy to drop in. Line the big one and the small one. It drops in place. You're going to take the auger, drop the auger in place. Next, you're going to take the top set. Very important. Pay attention. On the top set, there's this little outcropping here. You need it to line up with this outcropping on the bottom. So you're just going to line it to the side, and then roll it in, and then if you've assembled it correctly, you have a basically contiguous outcropping all the way here. Now, pay attention to this. If you guys do it wrong, and you assemble the handle where this outcropping is on the bottom, right, and you put the machine together and you turn it on, John, I just bought the Nama J2 and it doesn't work. Well, that's because you assembled it incorrectly, because the handle should not be over this outcropping. What should be over the outcropping is the top outcropping, and when you assemble it correctly like this and put it together, the machine will turn on. Likewise, on the Omega, you also need to assemble it properly. This one's a lot easier to assemble with less parts. You basically take the bottom half of the auger, put it right into the top, you drop this in there, make sure it's all the way seated down. You take the handle and you just line it up with the handle. Maybe for this reason it's a bit easier because the handles kind of go together. And then you have both handles, and then you put this on top. It'll beep at you to let you know, and you can press the button and it'll turn on, right? That being said, the part of the machines that I want to talk to you guys about next is actually not the juicing parts, but more importantly, it is the motor themselves. The motor on the Omega is actually quite heavy. That being said, on the Nama is even heavier. So the Omega motor is rated at 150 watts, whereas the Nama motor is rated at 200 watts. So it's a 50 watt more watts. That being said, I also personally believe, and I haven't seen these specific specs on this, but I personally believe that the torque on the Nama J2 is more than on the Omega. Another thing I do need to let you guys know is that the Nama J2 has a manual control. So like, should you put something in too thick, you will have to stop the machine and reverse it manually. Whereas the Omega has a nice automatic reverse function. If it should detect a torque load on the machine, it'll stop, but then it'll auto reverse itself and continue to juice. So that feature I definitely like on the Omega. That being said, it is rare I ever need to reverse my Nama because it pretty much always works and powers through even the thickest carrots. And actually that's what we're going to do next in a functional test, where we actually juice fairly thick carrots in both machines to see which one of the machines powers through them and which ones may have problems if either of them do. Alright, so once we got them fully assembled, we're just going to go ahead and put them on the top. And now we are basically all set up and ready to juice. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and do a weigh-in and get the juicers all set up for juicing. All right, so now we're all set up and ready to juice. And first, let's go ahead and do a weigh-in to make sure we have a fair fight. All right, so let's go ahead and check the weight on the scale on the Omega first. Looks like you guys can see we got 1,007 grams of pre-cut celery. And over on the side of the NEMA J2, once again, 1,007 grams. Looks like we have an even fight. Let's see if we can get both scales in the same image at the same time. 1,007 grams on both scales, basically the pre-cut organic celery, 2 to 3 inch pieces on both sides. All right, so now we got the weigh-in out of the way. Let's go ahead and move the scales out of the picture. And what we're gonna do is today we're gonna go ahead and juice in both machines at the exact same time, because the goal is I'm gonna try to fill up the hoppers with all the celery from each of the bowls. Go ahead and open up the Omega Effortless. This one's a little bit harder to open up with the way that it's designed. NEMA's a bit easier. So we're just gonna go ahead and load up each of the juicers. All right, so it looks like we got both juicers loaded up. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and time to see how long it takes each juicer. We're gonna basically start them at the exact same time. So we're gonna close both of the lids. Now the thing I wanna let you guys know is that the NEMA J2 runs at 50 revolutions per minute and the Omega Effortless batch juicer runs at 70 revolutions per minute. So does that mean the batch juicer will be done quicker because it runs at 20 RPMs faster? I don't know. It also depends on many of the design criteria and how the pulp and produce works its way through the juicer and then out of the juicer. I'm also going to be catching the juice, and we're going to be using a sieve to catch out all the pulp, the exact same sieve, to see which one of these machines puts more pulp in the juice. Once I start the stopwatch, we're just going to go ahead and speed this up for you guys so you guys can see the fast forwarded version to save you guys some time. As the produce works its way down and gets used up, I'll just be filling it through the top chute so we get hopefully a fairly even comparison. All right, so let's go ahead and start the stopwatch, turn this on, and turn the Omega on. All right, and they're both off to the races, so let's find out and see which one is faster. They're both going down, so I'm just going to go ahead and feed in produce into both machines, and we're going to go ahead and fast forward this part of the video up for you guys to save you guys some time. Alright, so as you guys can see, the NEMA is almost done, but there's one piece of celery that's impaled around the processing blade that didn't go in. It's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds for the NEMA J2 to finish. Let's go ahead and unimpale this guy and get it to go in. Meanwhile, the Omega Effortless is still working to create all the juice. It's definitely a lot further behind than the NEMA J2. So if you guys are looking for one of these two machines that's going to juice faster for you, then based on this test, I'm going to have to say the NEMA J2 is it. You know, it's already finished at maybe 2.5 minutes, whereas this guy is still going. So we're going to go ahead and turn off the J2 and wait for the Omega Effortless batch juicer to finish up. Alright, so the Omega Effortless batch juicer is almost finished. I'm seeing pulp still moving, and that's your sign that it's not quite done. It's almost stopped. There's nothing left in the hopper, and it looks like the juice is barely dribbling out. So we're going to go ahead and hit the stop button. And look at that, guys. It literally took 5 minutes to juice the same quantity, or about 1,000 grams of celery in the NEMA J2 versus the Omega Effortless batch juicer. Which one of those would you say is easier? Well, to me, clearly the NEMA J2 took half the time that the Omega Effortless batch juicer, despite this machine running at 70 RPMs, which is faster. I'm just going to say that the design of this, maybe it doesn't work as quickly due to the design of basically the juice being ground up on the outside versus the juice being ground up, or the pulp being ground up on the inside. So that was actually quite interesting. So let's go ahead and tip this up and see if we got any juice left in the juicing bowl there. And same thing we're going to do on the NEMA J2, tip that up, get any last dribbles out of the unit. And now we're going to go ahead and bring the juice up front and center for you guys to see which juicer made more juice. and which juicer put more pulp into the juice. So the first thing I want to let you guys know is that I want you guys to look at the top there. Look at what the sieve caught, right? I don't know if you guys can see that, but the sieve caught a lot more foam over on the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer. What does that mean to me? Well, the foam is basically dissolved oxygen or causing more oxidative damage to the juice, so that's actually lowering the quality of the juice just a tiny bit, and there's a lot more foam. So despite this running at 50 RPM and having a wiping blade that can also introduce some air or foam into the juice, the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer just running at 20 RPMs more, putting a lot more foam into the juice. So let's go ahead and try to tap this foam through and just get left with the pulp that is left in the sieve. And we're going to do the same on the NAMA J2. All right, let's go ahead and weigh out the pulp that was put into the juice on both juicers. Over on the NAMA J2, we'll weigh it out first. Looks like we got a total of 17 grams of pulp that the NAMA J2 would have put into the juice. 17 grams. Keep that in mind. Next, over on the Omega Effortless. All right. 15 grams of pulp on the Omega Effortless. So a little bit less pulp was put into the juice from the Omega Effortless in this situation. But a lot more air was put in there. So next, let's go ahead and take a look and compare the yields of each juice. All right, let's go ahead and give you guys a close-up on the yields. Number one, I want you guys to notice the colors. Which one of these two celery juices looks more appetizing? The NAMA J2, it's actually nice, bright green. To me, that is because there's less oxidation happening due to less oxygen on to the juice. Over on the Omega side, it's a lot deeper color, right? To me, that's maybe some kind of like enzymatic reaction, oxidation reaction due to the extra oxygen. If we look, you can see like there's a nice little foam layer that tapped through the, the sieve that went into the juice that will end up popping and raising the yield of the juice a tiny bit. But meanwhile, it's basically oxidizing the juice a lot more. There's lots of foam on there. Meanwhile, if we go over to the NAMA J2, there's significantly less foam. I mean, there's not even a full foam layer to cover the top of the juice. So that's quite interesting. Yeah, the color differences, right? And I'll be tasting these guys in a second. Anyways, the yield over on the NAMA J2 looks like it's basically a line above 700. So I'm going to call that like 725. So meanwhile, over on the Omega Effortless, it's actually under 700, maybe a line under, maybe a little bit above that line. So I'm going to call that 685. So 685 milliliters versus 725 milliliters. So it was a close race in this race, but in this case, the NAMA J2 won. All right, so now I want to go ahead and taste test the juice for you guys. First, I'm going to taste test the NAMA J2 that's less oxidized, a little bit brighter color on there. Pour out a little bit. I mean, tastes like celery juice. Definitely a tad bit bitter today. Yeah, the celery is just more hardcore. Now we're going to drink the more deeper green with the oxygen on top. Oxidized juice, in my opinion. Pour that out. You guys can notably see it's not quite as vibrant. If you guys are storing your juices, the NAMA juice, in my opinion, will store better because it doesn't have all the dissolved oxygen that over time will degrade the juice faster than a juice with less oxygen in it from the get-go. That being said, I encourage you guys to vacuum store your juices. Link down below to my video on that for how you guys can store your juices for up to 7 days. Let's go ahead and try the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer juice. Wow. Wow, guys. Like what I did on the celery, I used 3 heads, I chopped them up, I put them in one big bowl, I mixed them all up, so we got even distributions as best as I could. Put some on this side, some on this side. And this juice, despite using the same celery, is about 1.5 times more bitter, right? And I know some of you guys are on the medical medium celery juicing thing every day, and sometimes you guys make the juice and it tastes more bitter. That could be happening because of, number one, the celery is just more hardcore. This was more hardcore celery. But number two, what kind of damage does the juicer do to the celery? Some juicers could make a better tasting juice because of less oxidation, whereas in this situation, in this juicing, you know, the omega actually made a more hard tasting juice, in my opinion, because of the oxidation and that deeper color. Let's just go ahead and throw that up on there for you guys to look at the difference of that, right? Lighter green, in my opinion, in this case, is less oxidation, lighter flavor, not as strong, not as bitter. This juice tastes a lot bitter. Definitely not as enjoyable to me. Let me go ahead and try this just to make sure. Yeah, I mean, this one is still bitter because of the celery today, but I'm gonna say it's like 1.5 times less bitter than the omega, just due to all the extra oxygen put into the juice. So in this celery juice off battle, what juicer am I gonna have to give it to? I'm gonna have to give it to the Nama J2. Not only did it take half as much time, 2.5 minutes versus 5 minutes, not only did it make a tad bit more juice, not much, but it also made a better tasting juice with less oxidative damage, which means you're gonna get a juice with higher nutrition. All right, so now we're all set up and ready for the next juice off, which is actually we're gonna juice carrots, apples, beet, and some turmeric in both machines. So first, let's go ahead and do a weigh-in. All right, first we're gonna go ahead and check the omega side. On the omega side, looks like we got 1486 grams. Let's go over to the Nama J2 side. Nama J2 side, looks like we got 1486. Go ahead and try to get both scales at the same time. 1486 on both scales. Looks like we have a fair fight. All right, now that we got the weigh-in out of the way, let's go ahead and remove both scales. I'll probably do something like I did on the previous juice off, where I'm gonna load up both hoppers with about the same amount of produce, and then I'm gonna go ahead and manually feed in the remaining produce. For a fun test, we're gonna go ahead and leave the beet in half. It'd be best always to quarter it up, but I thought I'd do it in half because I want to see how much torque the machines have. You know, if both machines could power through them, or maybe one machine will power through it and the other will not. All right, so the first step is load up both machines. We're gonna go ahead and open the lids up. I always find the lid a little bit easier to open on the Nama J2. We're gonna go ahead and drop both beets in there, drop 2 apples in there, drop 2 apples in there on each one, try to load them up equally. Both these, I have some pretty fat diameter carrots there, pretty much equal diameter. And we're just gonna go ahead and break it up into big pieces and chunks to see if the machine, each of the machines, could deal with it. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the turmeric in both units. And we're just gonna go ahead and continue to load even amounts of produce in each machine. So we got both the machines loaded up with about the same amount of produce. We've got 3 carrots left, as well as some of the smaller pieces. We're just gonna go ahead and close both lids, and we're gonna go ahead and hit the start button, and we're gonna turn on both of the machines. And you can see here, the Nama J2, the lid was popping up for a second, but now it's staying down. We're gonna open up both spout caps and let the juice start flowing. As the machine goes more, we're just gonna go ahead and drop some of the produce in. Both machines are off to the races. They're juicing fine. Neither of them has stopped whatsoever. So this is definitely a good sign. So I think in order to save you guys some time, we're gonna speed this part of the video up for you guys and come back at you when we're close to being done. All right, it looks like the Nama J2 is just finished. It's at 3 minutes and 39 seconds. We're gonna go ahead and turn this guy off, let it sit there, and we're gonna go ahead and wait for the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer continue to finish. All right, it looks like the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer has finished. Looks like it took about approximately 1 minute longer than the Nama J2 juicer did in this particular test. All right, next let's go ahead and stop the Omega. In this case, it actually did not stop the juicer at all. It just powered right through it. Tip that up, get any last drips of juice there before we close the spout, and same thing on the Nama J2. Tip this up, get any last bits of juice before we close the spout as well. Let's go ahead and bring these juices up front and center for you guys so you guys can see how much juice each juicer made. First, I need to basically tap down the juices because I had that extra minute. I was able to tap down the Nama juice. Next, let's go ahead and tap down the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer juice and get all the juice through the sieve. All right, next let's go ahead and weigh out the pulp to see how much pulp was put into each of the juices. Over on the Nama J2, looks like we got 67 grams of pulp put into the juice. 67 grams of pulp. Next, over on the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer, looks like we got 64 grams of pulp. So in both cases, the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer put a little bit less pulp in than the traditional screen design. So this is actually quite interesting to me. In some of my previous tests, the juicer, just like the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer, put a little bit more pulp, but in this case, both these cases, put less pulp, which is impressive to me. Next, let's go ahead and compare the juices, see which juicer made more yield. All right, let's go ahead and look at the yields. In this case, both juices are pretty much the same or similar color, so I can't make any kind of discerning distinction about that. But we can make a distinction on the yield. Looks like the Nama J2 made approximately a little bit under 725 milliliters. I'm going to call that like 720 milliliters. Over on the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer, very respectable. Look at that. Actually, well, it's under 700 milliliters. I'm going to say that's a line above 675. So maybe 680 versus 720 milliliters of juice. Definitely a very close call. So what did we learn? The Nama J2 made a tad bit more juice, not much, than the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer. In this case, both juicers put some foam in the juice. I mean, they're pretty close. I'd say the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer put a little bit more, but not much more in this instance. The next thing I want to do is we're going to go ahead and try both juices for you guys. We're going to try the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer first. Once again, this juice was carrots, beets, apple, and turmeric. That's a nice juice for sure. Nice and sweet there. I taste a little bit of particulate in the juice there. Some fine particulate, not much, that actually went through the sieve. Juice is good though. Let's go ahead and try the Nama J2 juice. Nama J2 juice. Pretty much the same. Definitely tasting some particulate that actually went through the sieve as well. I mean, to me, in this demo, there's no discernible taste difference. I mean, maybe if you're a super taster, you might taste a little bit of difference between them. But for my untrained taste buds, these juices actually taste the same, unlike the celery juice, which definitely favored the Nama J2. So yeah, what do we say? In this test, well, the Nama J2 finished 1 minute quicker, so it was a little bit faster. Also made a little bit more juice. That being said, it put also a little bit more pulp into the juice, right? So between these two, like in this test, what do I think's better? I mean, I'm gonna have to also say once again, the Nama J2 by a hair. It was faster juice, made a little bit more juice, put a little bit more pulp in the juice, but for all practical purposes, 3 grams is pretty much like the same in my head. So, I mean, 3 grams is really not a lot, guys. So, at the end of this episode, I'm going to declare the winner of this juice-off comparison. While this was a very and extremely close juice-off comparison, I'm going to have to give the winner to the Nama J2 juicer. Not only did number 1, it juiced it faster in both cases. Number 2, not only did it make a tiny bit more yield in both cases. In the case of the celery, it also made a less oxidized juice. In the case of this, I'm going to say they're pretty much the same exact juice. I'm going to also say that Nama, should you need warranty support, in my opinion, has better customer service than Omega at this time, although that is subject to change. And also, of course, I'm going to hook you guys up with a 10% off discount coupon to get the Nama J2 even less than the Omega, and they both retail for the same price. But now with the 10% off, that's going to save you a chunk of change. Once again, coupon code throw up right here is handsfree10 for a 10% off savings on the Nama J2 at namawell.com. Time and time again, guys, I've compared the Nama against many different juicers, and time again, in most cases, the Nama J2 comes out on top. I think this is because Nama took 3 years to really test this machine in detail, made small tweaks, small adjustments to basically ensure that you're going to have the easiest experience and best experience, highest yield, and highest quality juice compared to other vertical slow juicers on the market, despite, Omega coming out with the Omega Effortless juicer. In addition, also, of course, cannot forget that the Omega Effortless batch juicer said to cut your celery and other stringy vegetables into 3 centimeter pieces, which is like 1.18 inches, and the Nama J2 in the booklet recommends 2 to 3 inches, which is a lot longer for sure. So I think in the end, if you guys are considering one of these high-end juicers, and both these machines are high-end juicers, you can't go wrong with either one. But if I had to pick one and I could only choose one, I would definitely choose the Nama J2 because it did perform better, took less time, and Nama has better customer services. These are things all very important to me, and maybe they are to you as well. So before I sign off today, I want to ask you guys, what did you think of this comparison? Which juicer, after explaining all the ins and outs, pros and cons, and doing 2 juice offs in this comparison test, which juicer did you like more and why? I know some of you guys may like the Nama, but for some reasons you're like, oh, John, I love that Omega. Once again, either way you go, you can't lose with either of these 2 machines. They're both great machines, but if I had to pick one, my money is on the Nama J2. If you guys enjoyed this episode, hey, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and more importantly, share this with somebody else that are considering buying the Omega Effortless Batch Juicer or Nama J2 so that they could learn about how these machines compare against each other. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you miss out on my new and upcoming episodes, so you don't miss out on my videos I have coming out every 5 to 7 days. You don't know what new juicers or vacuum blenders I'll be comparing, or what juicer knowledge bombs I'll be dropping on you, or what new unboxings on different equipment I'll be doing for you, and I wouldn't want you to miss any single episode, so make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my videos come out. And finally, be sure to check out past episodes. The past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 600 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teach you guys all about juicers, juicing, and other appliances that will allow you to increase and maximize your health through the extraction of fruits and vegetables and the nutrients that they contain within them. Links down below to some of my videos on the Nama J2 that I've made previously, including how to bulk juice greens, how to bulk juice roots in the Nama J2, how to juice whole fruits in the Nama J2, how to juice the celery, 5 heads of celery, how to make the 4 easy recipes, as well as why the Nama J2 is my favorite juicer at this time, so that you guys can learn more about the Nama J2 before you lay out your hard-earned cash for my favorite juicer. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.